Housewives of True Crime, Monday edition. Thanks for joining. Are you happy I joined?
This is interesting because usually I'm happy you joined because I'm in a pinch for time, but usually you look glorious. That's how you usually roll, and I don't. But I will say,
Today?
and maybe YouTube can agree with me, you look like shazit, and I look glorious because I've been tanning.
Oh, that's so funny you say that. I have not. I'm like actually trying to make myself look just a little bit better. Was in such a pinch for time because I had a birthday lunch today, and Gretchen and I usually record kind of over lunchtime. So I had to push Gretchen a little bit, and we all have pickups. So you know how the drill is. And I forgot that we were actually recording for YouTube and not Patreon. My husband tells me I forget everything these days, which I am forgetting, but I was able to squeeze in this lymphatic massage this morning. So, you know, when you're on the massage table and you don't I basically look like I just got off the massage table, which should be glorious. Like I feel good, but let me tell you, I've never gotten a lymphatic massage. Have you? Do you even know what that is?
No, I don't like people touching me.
Oh yeah, that's right. You don't even like massages.
I don't like that.
She was like, what do you want to work on? I was like, this is my stomach. She went to town with these tools, lots of wooden tools, but I feel like pain.
Yeah.
Like no pain, no gain, right? I'm like, go for it. Just breathe
That
in.
really is your philosophy in life.
No pain, no gain. Yeah.
I do have all the other friends who always tell me oh, you look so good. I can't even tell that you've gained weight. Tab is never going to be that friend. Okay. She's like, okay, that's not working. This is what you got to do.
It's true.
It's beauty.
My other girlfriend, she goes, can you come over really quick to look at this artwork? I walked in and the lady hung it all up at the house to see what it looks like. And I was like, no, a hard no. She was like, you don't even I kind of like it. I was like, oh shit. Sorry. I mean, if you like it, art is subjective, right? So if you like it, then
it certainly is subjective. And I appreciate honesty from friends, but I think maybe you have to gauge which friend you are giving your honest opinion to. You got to know them real well.
I know.
Right?
She knows me
before
pretty
you just
well,
put it out there.
I think she's okay. She knows I love her, even if the artwork wasn't what I would have chosen. But everybody has different styles, you know? I did like some pieces, but I didn't want the whole house in the same artist either. But yeah, she has a beautiful house. It's Sally, so she has a beautiful house. So I'm like, you don't even need artwork. To me, don't even get artwork.
Yeah.
Your house is artwork itself.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Okay, well, you also went to a fancy lunch today because I make fun of Tab when she has things like this to do, because Tab has the kind of friends who don't have jobs, unlike my friends. And so for their birthday, for the birthday, they're like ladies who lunch.
Two of them actually have jobs, but they were able to get out of their jobs today, I guess.
For a long lunch?
Yes, it was a long lunch. And I went looking like this. So I did feel very out of my comfort zone because I would have liked to put lashes on, but I just couldn't.
Of course, because you look bald.
I know. I so do.
Well, I am upping my fancy game, Tab, because the reason why I am tanning is because I'm going to a gala. Gala. It might be the first gala of my life. I know you've been to loads.
Is this your first one? First school gala?
Yeah, it's for the kids. It's for the kids' school.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I am happy
for the children. I'm doing it for the children.
Always.
So I started to tan myself today. Mm-hmm. I am not comfortable enough with myself to go to the spray tanner.
Oh, I was wondering why you went
get
to
all
that.
Up in your business.
Why you went to the actual tan. Okay.
No, I didn't do the tan. I bought the the mousse with the glove.
Oh, you didn't do the bed.
I'm doing it myself.
Oh, well, it looks good.
No, I didn't do the bed.
Okay.
Well, thank you. But yeah, I just remember the last time I went to the tanner, I had holes in my underwear. It kind of traumatized me.
Yes.
And I'm repeatedly traumatized by that experience because every time I meet someone and they say, hey, I listened to your podcast, I think, oh, I hope it's not the one where I talked about the holes in my underwear.
It for sure is.
Are you ready for crime?
I am. I'm also sucked in. By the way, just to let you know, if anybody has done a lymphatic massage or not, this chick, she gave me a waist trainer to wear on top of all that massaging today. And it is really uncomfortable. And I think, how in the hell do the Kardashians wear that all the time? Could you imagine being born in that century where you're always sucking it up? By the way, it's like that bathing suit you were talking about.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm very familiar with the waist trainer. I have a whole drawer full of them. I just can't fit into any of them.
They're not comfortable. Maybe
It's
you
depressing.
just should be like, I don't even want to fit into them because I can't even breathe.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Loosen it up.
Let's go.
Get loose. We're going to get to
trying.
crime. Okay. Okay. All right, Tab.
I'm a little worried about your sweatshirt blending in, by the way.
Oh, should I take it off?
Maybe.
At least at this point?
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. She's always trying to get me undressed, people.
Mm-hmm. It looks good. You look great.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Today's case takes place in a little desert oasis called Silver Lakes. Silver Lakes is part of Hesperia, California, which is inland high desert area, and I'm not very familiar with those parts. Unless we're talking Palm Springs. Which
but that's not the same.
Yeah. Hesperia is population $100,000 people.
Is that how much you can buy a house for?
Well,
yeah.
They're pretty good prices. Yeah. But Silver Lakes is this community outside of town, like really outside of town, that has 2 man-made lakes, tennis courts, parks, beaches, and the price of housing is good. You can buy a nice house there for $300,000.
Whoa.
And you could buy a really nice house with your own dock for $650,000.
Okay, that does sound...
That's a bargain. In theory, it all sounds good to me, but I have learned from experience that I'm not really a community HOA kind of girl.
Is this one of those places that's like master plan community?
Master plan community, yes. I think that invites people to be all up in your beeswax, and I don't like that. And I think it also, HOAs make people, there's a lot of complaining about dumb stuff, and I have little patience for that.
Like your trash cans being left out one extra day, like mine.
HOA people be complaining about dumb stuff more, okay? Mm-hmm. But Sabrina and Rob Limon lived in Silver Lake since 2000, right after they had gotten married kind of young after 2 years of dating. At the time, they had bright future. Rob's kind of this tough guy. He has a big old tattoo on his head, but his family describe him as, really like a teddy bear. Just look tough. Sabrina was really cute, bubbly, bleach blonde, could rock a bikini. She's that type, okay? So Rob had a great job working for the railroad that afforded them a comfortable life. And Sabrina was happy to be a doting wife and stay-at-home mom. They had 2 kids and lots of friends in Silver Lakes. They actually called their group of friends the Wolf Pack.
Oh, I kind of like that.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Lots of barbecuing. I mean, it's not my favorite name.
I have some friends and we call ourselves the 6-pack.
I think that's way cuter. And
yeah.
Our group text with our friends from Ventura, we call the Brat Pack.
That's right.
Yeah.
Very cute too. Okay. Wolf Pack's not.
Okay. All packs, bottom of the list to Wolf Pack, but whatever, it's their thing. Okay. They're boating, they're barbecuing, and they did a little of the swinging. Okay. I'm not an expert on swinging, but to me, how they rolled seems kind of like swinging on the lighter side. How it worked from the Wolfpack members that have given interviews is like Sabrina and another friend, sometimes her best friend, Kelly, which that part, I really don't get.
Yeah. I don't like that.
Yeah. I don't like that.
I think that makes for not a best friend forever. It's not a BFF.
No,
and
I just feel like, yes, I tell you all kinds of gross things about myself that are not sexy. So how would you go and have sex with someone? I would never tell those things to my husband,
Yeah.
Because I have sex with him, So I don't get it. But whatever, that was their thing. Okay.
Sure. We're not judging. Okay.
We're not judging. I'm just saying this is a thing. Okay. But anyways, while her and her friend hooked up, the husbands would watch. And then they would go be with their own husbands afterwards. They never swapped dudes. And the dudes never hooked up with each other, but they would bang their respective spouses in the same room. So I think that's kind of swinging light, right?
Yeah. Orgy-esque, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
That's
something
like PG-13 swinging, I think.
Oh my gosh. No, it's still R-rated. It's just not X-rated.
I am all for consenting adults doing whatever the heck they want, as long as it's not hurting anyone. The whole swinging light thing they had going on amongst their Wolfpack friends never stopped working for Rob. He's really into it, but it did stop working for Sabrina. She began to feel a little conflicted about it. You see, she had some of the Christian church guilt about opening up her marriage in that way. And back when her and Rob first got married, church was like their thing. They'd gotten off that path. They had even gotten baptized together at one point, but over the years, the church scene became kind of further and further away in the rearview mirror of life for them. But Sabrina wanted to circle back, and her and Rob had been married for over a decade now. Their children were getting older and easier, and Sabrina had more time to contemplate her crisis of faith these days. Meanwhile, Rob's were having too much fun, and everything is fine. So, he's paying no mind to Sabrina's dilemma about the swinging, right? So Sabrina decided to get herself a little job to spend her idle time and distract herself. The job is a good one, okay? She was a sample girl at the Costco.
Oh.
That seems like a you're just making people happy, low stress, Got me curious, how much do they make doing the demonstrations at Costco? Sabrina is so cute. I'm sure her samples were a hit. They definitely were, with a young fireman named Jonathan Hearn that frequented the Costco to shop for the fire station. Sabrina was 34 at the time when her and John met, and John was 23. John is an interesting guy. I would say he's very articulate, which is cool, but his articulation has kind of a uppity vibe.
Arrogant,
I would say.
Like he comes off arrogant.
Yeah. He comes off like ultra serious, like the kind of person you could never joke around with.
That's no fun to be around.
Everyone that describes John describes his personality as, like he's just this super smart guy. And you know where he got all those smarts?
His mama. Oh, homeschool. Yeah, that can work.
He was homeschooled his whole life. Like many homeschooling families, he was also very involved with their church, and John was very knowledgeable about all things with the Lord. As it was, John and Sabrina were drawn together over samples of like ravioli and Jesus stuff. I'm not sure how the Jesus stuff initially came up at the sample counter, but it did because John and Sabrina decided to exchange numbers after John offered to be her spiritual advisor. They began meeting for coffee and such to discuss. The spiritual advice led to Pound Town. I don't do a lot of Bible studying, but from what I understand, adultery is frowned upon in a big way. Agreed?
I agree, but I have this fucking spider that keeps trying to eat me, and I just found it on my wall. Hold on.
So Sabrina and John continue their affair for a minute. And then one day, Rob sees some text between the two of them, and he was pissed, right?
Yeah.
But Sabrina told him it wasn't a thing. That's just how spiritual people talk, honey, or some like BS, okay? Fast forward to another day when Rob was over at his BFF Jason's house, and Jason got a call from John. Now, Jason knew John because they were both firemen, and John knew Jason was friends with Rob because he had met the whole wolf pack one night at a bar. So this wasn't the first time that John had called Jason. He actually had been bugging him since that night at the bar, like, hey, I really think your friends are super cool. I want to hang out with the wolf pack. And Jason thought it was annoying. He actually thought that maybe John had a crush on him or something because he seemed like he wanted to hang out with him so bad.
Too much.
Yeah, it was too much, too strong, right? But anyways, this time when he called, it was because he wanted Rob's number. He told Jason he really needed to speak with him, and Jason informed him, well, you're in luck. He's standing right here. So he hands the phone to Rob, and him and Rob have this intense conversation. When it was over, Jason was like, what gives, buddy? And he told him that John was just apologizing for having an affair with my wife, Sabrina. So, of course, Rob goes home, confronts Sabrina, and she promised to end it, and they agreed to work on things between them. And they also decided to keep it to themselves because, Silver Lakes, everyone's all up in each other's business, and Sabrina didn't want to hear about it from the wolf pack. So the only people that knew about her indiscretions initially were her, Rob, John, Rob's BFF, Jason, and then, of course, Jason told his wife, Kelly, who was Sabrina's best friend, who, like I just told you before, she occasionally banged. Okay. But this was news to Kelly. Okay. And she was not happy with Sabrina about the whole situation. But time went on. Seemed like everyone had put it behind them. Then one day, Kelly went into Costco and sees Sabrina at one of the break tables sitting there with John. So Kelly ran home and told her husband, Jason, and then he called up John and told him, like, stay away from my best friend's wife. Okay. And he said, don't even go to the Costco ever. And John agreed. But the truth was the affair had never really stopped between Sabrina and John, and it didn't stop after Jason confronted him about it either. Side note, Jason seems like a good friend. I think that's really...
he kind of does.
Kind of does, right? Okay. So the affair went on for about 2 years before tragedy struck.
That's a long affair. I mean, in my book.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know what a typical affair is, but that one seems long. That one seems like maybe you'd want a divorce by then.
Back when I used to
have an affair.
Oh, yeah. That was the lifespan of most of my relationships before I got married. We would date about 2 years.
Yeah.
And then it would end. There's the one time where we dated for 2 years, broke up for an entire year, and then decided to hurt each other all over again for like another year before we ended it. But, what are you going to do?
Right? What are you going to do?
Okay. So while Rob was at work, someone came in and fatally shot him in the chest and face.
At his workplace.
At his workplace. Yeah. When the shift relief came in that evening, they found Rob and called the police. What police found at the scene was some stuff strewn about, and a laptop computer was missing. It looked like a robbery gone wrong at first glance, but they were suspicious of it just being staged right off the bat. For one thing, this building where Rob worked is one of those exits in the middle of nowhere into Hatchabee where there's nothing but a couple of industrial structures. And also, Rob still had his wallet full of cash on his person, right?
I'm impressed people still carry cash.
Yeah.
You?
Well, this was in 2014.
Still, I don't think I've ever carried cash.
Yeah.
Except when I was a waitress.
Yeah.
And then I had cash.
Cash for days. Well, they went through Rob's call log and saw a bunch of missed calls and messages from Sabrina. Turns out the following day was the first day of school for her kids. And her daughter really wanted to talk to her daddy about it before she went off to bed. So, I mean, it's really sad. She never got to talk to him again.
Mm-hmm.
Officers went on to inform Sabrina Rob had been shot and she was a wreck and continued to be one. They asked her who would want to kill her husband, and she said, no one. Everyone loves Rob. The next question, they always ask is, well, how's the state of your marriage?
Yeah, you having an affair, Sabrina?
She did not disclose the affair. Yeah. So they moved on from that. They didn't suspect it. Detectives learned that Rob was not expected to work that day. He had filled in for someone last minute, and so they looked into who he was filling in for. Maybe that guy was the target. Turns out lots of people didn't like that guy, but the investigation into it didn't go anywhere. What else they had to go on was there were cameras outside of the building, and they identified the person passing by that they thought the assailant probably was. The footage isn't great, but it shows a man with a backpack walking with a distinct limp.
Okay.
They released the footage to the media, and they got tips that there's a transient man in town with a limp. They followed that lead, but that guy was in the hospital at the time.
At the time, not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were kind of stumped until they got a call from Rob's BFF, Jason, 2 weeks after the murder. Jason had an idea of who the assailant was. He hadn't thought of John Hearn in a minute. It'd been a while since he had confronted him because he believed the affair between him and Sabrina was long over. But he had just gotten a voicemail from John that gave him some pause. It was one of those like diarrhea of the mouth, rambling messages about how sorry he was about everything in the past. He didn't say he had killed Rob. It was hard to follow what he actually was saying, but he did say he was sorry, and that just rubbed Jason the wrong way. And then Jason's wife, Kelly, who had been by Sabrina's side since it all happened, came home and told him, guess who had the nerve to show up at Sabrina's house? And Sabrina did not seem mad about it. John. Well, so something's real sus about that,
wouldn't you know? Yeah.
Okay. So Jason plays the message for police, and they decide to tap Sabrina's phone. Sabrina did not receive any phone calls from John's number, but she did get lots of calls from John calling on a burner phone. Detectives listen in on those phone calls for weeks, and they were bored to tears, basically. Okay, turns out Sabrina and John did talk a lot about, the spirit, and they didn't mention anything about plotting to kill Rob, though they did speak of longing to be together, like all sappy-like. It's real puke, okay? So due to the lack of incrimination that they had been hoping for, they decided to do something they call tickle the wire.
I know that.
Uh-huh. They give the subject a little tickle of information to get them talking.
Mm-hmm.
So the detective calls up Sabrina and says, I have news about the investigation. She's like, great.
Awesome.
He says, we're running a DNA profile on a drop of sweat from the crime scene. And she's like, oh, good. Okay. Click, calls John. Okay.
She called John right away.
Yeah, right away. It sounds pretty far-fetched to me. I mean, like it's an industrial building with lots of sweaty dudes.
So
I don't think don't think unless it was like blood, they would be finding or testing it, right? Yeah. I mean, come on. True Crime 101, Sabrina, right? But nonetheless, Sabrina tells John about it, and his response was interesting. He says, Sabrina, that sounds like crap. They are probably just listening to us right now.
That's funny, because I think if I was him, I would have just been like, wow, hopefully they find him.
Yeah, if you were thinking they were listening. Yeah, right then, right? Okay. Well, neither one of them admit to having a part in the murder, but John gets all Bible-y and tells her, you know what, babe? It's like we're King David and Bathsheba. Now, the detectives listening in get out their Bibles and look up the story.
I'm wondering too.
David and Bathsheba. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me tell you, it's a good one. Okay. So King David spots Bathsheba one day and decides he wants to bang her, despite the fact that she's married to this dude, Uriah. But she's pretty easy to bang because Uriah is off fighting the war. So he sends messengers to Bathsheba to come and bang him. And then Bathsheba finds out she's pregnant. And that's a pickle because her husband is off fighting, right?
Mm-hmm. That's a pickle.
So
it's Jesus number one. Is this Old Testament, New Testament?
I feel like this has got to be the old one,
yeah,
right?
Me too. Yeah.
Okay. So being king and all, he has the power to have Uriah sent home. So he could bang his wife and then it's like problem solved.
Okay,
right?
got it. Yeah.
I mean, they probably didn't go to the gyno back then and get the exact due date,
Right,
okay.
Right.
But Uriah said he won't be banging his wife while his men are off fighting.
They're like, no, it is ordered.
So he orders the commanders to send Uriah out to the front line and then withdraw real fast so he'll most likely be killed. And he was. I mean, it goes down in the Bible. Okay? Yeah. Now, I think it's kind of a stretch, but the referencing of this little Bible story was enough for the officers to arrest Sabrina and John for conspiracy to commit murder.
Oh.
Bananas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What ended up happening after that was the DA said, wait a minute. I think we have enough to charge John. They had gathered more evidence against him. They determined the assailant drove a motorcycle after they got some footage from another employer in the area. And John had the same type of motorcycle. Side note, on his fuel tank, it says he forgives, which I don't know, but I find that kind of douchey.
And he also...
And very ironic, right?
Did they also test that sweat DNA?
Yeah, totally. But as far as Sabrina went released, well, she was not welcomed back to the Silver Lakes community with open arms after word got out that she was suspected of conspiring to kill Rob. The Wolfpack, they turned on their girl, okay?
Mm-hmm.
People were mean. She had to homeschool the kids. People were mean to them too.
Yeah.
So she did that for a while, but it got to be too much bad energy. So she sold the family home and packed up her kids and moved closer to family somewhere we are very familiar with, Camarillo, California.
Mm-hmm. Also with a firefighter.
Yes. Yes. True story.
We were friends with down the road that I suspect were swingers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Okay.
I recall it was very interesting conversations we had back then.
Yeah. She would remember. I don't remember shit.
Yeah. 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 Okay, well, Sabrina kept a low profile in Camarillo and, I mean, hopefully enjoyed some Bobby's Mexican food and dim sum at the Golden Dragon during her time there because, Tab, after 2 years, police came a-knocking and this time the arrest stuck. What had happened was...
Let me guess.
John's trial.
Turned.
Yes, John turned.
Yes.
Okay. His trial was approaching, and so he decided to make a plea deal, which entailed him testifying against Sabrina in 2017. Sabrina's trial was televised, and both John and Sabrina testified, and both had very differing versions of events. John says the motivation for the conspiracy was money and, of course, God's plan for their love. For the money part, Sabrina only made $17,000 after her sale of the house. And she collected $300,000 in life insurance, which, you know, she says really only helped with some living expenses. And I mean, you've got 2 kids to raise by yourself, $300,000. Like, you're going to have to stretch that out, right? She had given away John's things, like his boat, you know, and stuff to his family. I mean, she didn't sound like she was being greedy to me. As far as the love argument goes, she concedes she was in love with John, but she also loved her husband, Rob, and had no intention of leaving him. John says she told him divorce wasn't an option for her because of child custody and stuff. And her defense team said, you know, bullshit. She would never do anything to hurt her kids that adored their father, and that John was obsessed with her, and that was the motivation for murder. It also came out that John had a thing for middle-aged mamas. He was involved with another one still when him and Sabrina started hooking up. Sabrina's defense also argued she did not know that John was responsible for the shooting. He had never admitted that to her, and they point to the hours of conversations they had where it was never spoken of. She testified the reason she calls him after the detective tickled the wire was because John had been adamant that she needed to keep him informed about everything she hears from detectives about the investigation because he's like so smart and he knows how these things work, and he didn't want their affair to become public information because it would look bad for her and they would consider him a suspect if they all knew about it. So I don't know.
So what about the story that he just made that Bible verse up just for nothing?
No, I mean, it's a real Bible verse.
But I know, but like
in the Bible,
the guy dies.
Yeah, in the Bible, the guy dies, and he is telling her, you and me are like, you know, King David and Bathsheba, but Bathsheba does not consent to killing her husband.
True.
Okay. Her defense also pointed out that Sabrina didn't have a burner phone. She wasn't like trying to hide anything like John, and Rob wasn't even scheduled to work that day. So how could she have conspired that?
Well, I would think that if she is the only one that would know that Rob was actually at work that day.
Well, unless this guy is like obsessed and is like driving by.
Yeah, true.
And can see, you know, his truck or whatever.
Right.
Just, you know, could be, right? Okay. So one thing I will say, I find it really unlikely that she would have conspired to have Rob killed the day before the first day of school. Moms, feel me on this, right? Like,
so the first day of school is the very next day, and the dad is going to be murdered the day before. That's a big deal
in mom life.
No.
Yeah. You don't want your kids missing the first fucking day of school.
You also don't want them missing the first day of school because their dad just died. I mean, that seems like you're a real bad mother. You're a worse mother than a wife.
New backpack. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But John said this had been in the works for a while. He said this wasn't even their first planned assassination. He said back in April of 2014, he had concocted some arsenic-laced banana pudding, which he gave to Sabrina to put in Rob's lunch. But at the time, she had second thoughts, and so she called Rob at work and told him the bananas were bad, which everybody knows bananas don't really go bad in banana pudding, right? She denies this ever happened. She argues that she would never have had a deadly dessert in her fridge where her children could have gotten into it. And her attorney pointed to her call log And in the month of April, she never called Rob while he was working.
No way.
Rob always called her when he was on his way home, which, I mean, I think that's pretty typical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, her lawyer emphasized to the jury that Rob made a plea deal after he was looking at life in prison for 25 years with the possibility of parole in exchange for his testimony. So it really, served him to be less than truthful, right? I mean, that's a pretty sweet deal.
Right.
My favorite part of the trial was when the attorney was trying to show how the evidence against Sabrina is that the only evidence against Sabrina is this guy's words, and he's a liar. He asked him about all the God talk and how much of that he really followed. And John was like, yeah, I've been pretty disillusioned about it since I was 18. Translation, he was just talking all that Bible shit to Sabrina to get in her pants. Yeah. Oh. And he's admitting that. Yeah. I'm not saying it's impossible that Sabrina, co-conspired to kill Rob. But if I was on the jury, I would not have had enough evidence to convict her. And I thought she came off better than John. I mean, I think if they wanted to convict her, they needed to keep those wiretaps going on more. Yeah, they needed to dig for more evidence.
They probably did. There was nothing else. They listened to everything. I'm sure they don't just listen for a second.
Yeah. Well, the jury did not agree with me. They found there was enough to convict her, and they found her guilty on all charges except attempted murder by way of banana pudding.
Oh my God.
Which is if you believe he lied about the banana pudding, he's a liar, right?
He's a liar. So, okay, I told you, they have an already guilty mind when they sit down at the jury.
Right. So Sabrina was sentenced to 25 years to life with the possibility of parole.
Sabrina Limon murder trial. We are just learning of a verdict. The jury has reached a verdict in that trial. We are learning of 4 guilty charges for Sabrina Limon. Guilty of murder. She's been found guilty of conspiracy to commit a crime, guilty of solicit to commit a murder, and guilty of accessory of being a murder. She was found not guilty on the attempted murder charge and not guilty on meaningful harmful substances.
Okay.
And John got his plea deal for 25 years with the possibility of parole. He is actually up for parole before her and will most likely be free before her, despite being the one who shot a man in the face.
Wow.
I mean, I don't like that. What is also annoying to me is guess what he's doing in prison?
Training dogs.
Ministry.
Stop it.
Okay, so Sabrina has continued to appeal her sentence, but keeps getting denied. Her family has stuck by her. The Wolf Pack disbanded. There's been a couple of divorces amongst the friends, including Jason and Kelly.
Yeah, of course. Wow. Okay. Well, that is not surprising that they all get divorced. It sounds like a shit show over there. Anyhow, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate all of you. If you want more of us, we do have a Patreon or a bonus Clink Clink. Sorry, Apple they told me that, I don't know, something about how their uploads are not working correctly. So the Clink Clink Club, which is our bonus episodes, had a little bit of a glitch in the system, but it should now be resolved. So if you want to listen there or on patreon.com/Housewives of True Crime. Also on Spotify, we have some questions if you listen there and want to interact with us. And if you want to be more interactive, we are on social media. Find us everywhere and on YouTube if you want to see what I look like without makeup. So find us wherever you can. Hopefully you have a good week and we'll see you Thursday. Thanks. Clink, clink.